I think we're farther along towards a ceasefire than we are in these last 98 days than we were in the previous Biden administration, only because the president has laid down that marker on January 20th that you mentioned, that we're going to have peace in Ukraine.
Let's turn our attention to Donald Trump. He certainly dominated the headlines over the last 3 months. It's difficult to believe that he's been back in office for less than 100 days, but he has 98 or 97 so far, depending on how you count it. Some of his more memorable decisions have included threatening to annex Greenland and Canada, announcing widespread tariffs that caused global markets to plummet, and sending migrants to controversial El Salvador and a mega prison there called Secot. He's also had a shouting match in the Oval Office with Volodymyr Zelensky, if you remember that, after pledging to end the Ukraine war on his first day in office. There have also been a host of changes domestically. Let's speak now to Mike Dubke, Trump's former White House Director of Communications. Hello to you.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say.
What's your report card on these first 100 days?
Oh, I hate report cards on 100 days. I think the president was elected on three issues: immigration, inflation, and then I call it the three I's, and then incompetence in dealing in the foreign realm. So I'd give him on immigration, I'd give him an A+. On inflation, which is part of the taxes and tariff talks, I'm sure we'll talk about it. Probably give a solid B. And then in terms of incompetence, we've got a much more lethal Pentagon now, but we still have wars in Ukraine and Gaza. So that's an incomplete. If I had to do my report card at 100 days, or 98, I guess we're at today.
As far as the foreign policy concerns, I mean, that does seem to be an area where on Iran, on Israel and on Ukraine, nothing really has been achieved.
See, I disagree with you on that. First of all, we've got talks, and potentially direct talks in Ukraine, farther along towards a ceasefire than we are in these last 98 days than we were in the previous Biden administration, only because the president has laid down that marker on January 20th that you mentioned, that we're going to have peace in Ukraine. Has he been successful yet? No. But we do have individuals talking. There was the argument in the Oval, and then it seemed like a much more solemn conversation that the president had with Zelensky in Rome. On Iran, we are in, if not direct, I can't understand if we're indirect, direct, same room, next room over, whatever's going on with Iran. At least there are, again, conversations. And we did have a albeit brief ceasefire in Gaza, but there was some progress made there. So I wouldn't classify it as a failure.
And on the economy, you listed that. It does seem, in terms of what's happened since that Liberation Day, the announcement of those very heavy tariffs, that was a bit of a misfire. When we're talking about the economy and where the American people were in November of 2024, inflation and pricing was at the top of everyone's agenda. I think it still is. The president has a very different idea of how to long-term bring down those prices and lower taxes. In his mind, it's tariffs. But to your point, with Liberation Day and before we had the 90-day reprieve, the declaration of those tariffs, there has not been a settled atmosphere around pricing in the United States and grocery stores. There has not been a rise in the stock market. In fact, the opposite. So we're very much in the middle of all of this, and it's gonna play out over probably the next year. But we'll see where we are. And now, I don't have my 90-day countdown, but we're probably 70 days away from figuring out where we stand on tariffs. Now, one thing that his critics are raising that we didn't at the beginning is this whole question of his style of government domestically, that he's using executive orders to get his way. He seems to be prepared to weaponize the justice system against people who've criticized him, not people who are doing anything illegal. And then there's also been the whole question of these deportations, including of American citizens or people who aren't
terrorists about which he says he can't do anything. I mean, how concerned are you that he's trashing American democracy?
Well, I'm not. We keep hearing this constitutional crisis talk. I think we're in I call it the constitutional question. I mean, we are finally seeing, or maybe just now, the spotlight being on the judiciary because the legislative branch has been ineffective in this first 98 days of the administration, other than getting nominees confirmed for the president. We're seeing this push and pull between the judiciary and the executive branch, and that is part of our government. So very much we're witnessing history in a sense, but when it really has come down to it, the president has listened to the courts. Now, you may say, well, he's not bringing anyone back from El Salvador, especially the individual that was sent there erroneously. And this is where I think I have this joke, this is why people hate lawyers. They're all interpreting what words mean rather than actually getting to the bottom of it.
But what about sending in the FBI to arrest the judge?
If the judge is doing what is alleged by the FBI and having the FBI arrest somebody for interfering with the rule of law, I think everyone is fair game in that case. Now, the other thing you brought up was weaponizing the courts. The courts have been weaponized against Donald Trump for almost 2 years now, with the court case in New York, the federal cases that were pending before his election. So we've had a weaponization, and I think this is actually a very terrible precedent to be set, but it was set by the Democrats coming after Donald Trump in a political time frame. They could have come after him years before, but they waited to maximize the damage. It didn't work, obviously. He's now the president again. But we've got this weaponization of lawfare on both sides. I would wish it would stop, but that's the position that we're in right now.
Mike Dubke, thank you very much indeed for looking ahead to Trump's 100 days.
Mr. President, can we talk to you real quick? Start the meeting.